Hello, today we're going to talk about punctuation. So I'm following Swan, entry 473, right? And we start with the full stop, or like Americans like to call it, this is the period, right? So when you hear the word period, this is American English, right? We also are going to talk about other punctuation marks. Now, the period isn't truly period. Notice the pronunciation in British English, period in American English. Um, it doesn't really merit our attention except for the fact that we need to make sure that we draw a distinction when we use abbreviations in English, right? When we use something like doctor, right? British English will go for the abbreviation without a period, whereas or a full stop, whereas American English will go for that, right? The same goes for miss, right? So for all these titles showing courtesy or respect, right? Oh, this is the verb, sorry, miss. So you will see that there's no full stop after miss, right? Miss Lipman in this case. The same goes for an MA, a Master of Arts in certain here. In any area, in linguistics, for example, right? An MA, American English will take periods in American English, right? Okay, so the next point is 474, which is the colon, right? And what I wanted to remember about the colon, it is mostly used in technical texts, right? And this mark is used basically to amplify. The word is amplify, right? So the idea is I'm going to expand what I already said, right? Once again, this doesn't merit our attention a lot, except for the fact that in American English, we use the colon in letters, right? Dear sir, dear madam, will take a colon in American English, a comma in British English. And to be frank, British English also tends to do away with all punctuation, altogether, right, in letter writing, to make letters look cleaner, right? Okay, we also use the comma. I would like to, sorry, no, not the colon, sorry, when in drama, right? When we're looking at plays. So after, that's point number 6 here. When we announce who is speaking, right? But that's the only use. Well, the use of the colon is not that significant. Let's move on to the semicolon, which is actually more interesting. By the way, notice that Fowler here uses a hyphen to join semicolon, but actually Oxford styles it as one word, right? Now, what is that the semicolon does? It actually joins two full sentences. My mother likes cats. My father likes dogs, right? Something of the sort. So I have two full sentences, each with its subject and its predicate. The other point that Fowler gives us is lists, right? Rather than talking about a list, I would prefer for us to talk about an enumeration, which is the technical term for a list, right? Now, actually, we use a semicolon in an enumeration when there is a comma within the elements that have been enumerated. So I'm going to read from the example you have here, which is, you may use the sports facilities on condition that your subscription is paid regularly, semicolon, that you arrange all the necessary cleaning to be carried out, that you undertake to make good any damage. Now, in this case, the semicolons do not seem necessary. We would naturally prefer a semicolon if the enumeration had read something like this: that you arrange, comma, yourself, comma, for all the necessary cleaning to be carried out, that you undertake, comma, to the best of your ability, comma, to make good any damage. That is to say, when when commas have been used within the elements that are part of the enumeration. Otherwise, we do not use semicolon. It is true that here Fowler's reason to use a semicolon is the length of the elements that have been included in the enumeration, but frankly, this one doesn't seem to merit a semicolon, right? Okay, we're going to move on to the comma, which is a much more exciting punctuation mark, right? And please remember, when we talk about the comma, because it's double M, it is double M, the pronunciation is comma, right? As opposed to a coma, right? Which is when you're in hospital, right? When you're hospitalized, you go into, or you are in a coma, and the pronunciation becomes coma. Good. So commas are very useful. And I'm going to quote Lynn Truss from her book, Eats, Shoots, and Leaves. And in this book, she says, don't use commas like an idiot, right? So sometimes we use commas just to continue a sentence and make it very, very long, right? And that's very annoying and actually quite useless. So let's follow Fowler's rules for commas, right? One is that we use a comma before and, but, or, and I'm going to add yet also, maybe sometimes while. But when do we use this comma before these conjunctions? Well, basically when they join two sentences, as the example shows here. Jane decided to try the homemade steak pie, comma, and Andrew ordered Dover sole with boiled potatoes, right? Here there are some other examples in which the sentences are much shorter and the writer has chosen not to use that comma. But well, frankly, this is just a stylistic choice, right? I would like to refer you to something that is known as the comma. I don't know if we're going to find it like this, the comma splice, right? Which is when you use a comma to join, no, it isn't, to join two sentences, right? In the example we had here, sorry, let me see. Get spliced. Oh, to get spliced means to get married. I didn't know that. Let's see if there's another definition. No, there isn't. So as a comma splice would be, and in this case, I am following Newhart's rules, the Handbook of Style for Writers and Editors by Oxford. And the comma splice would be something like this. I like swimming very much, comma, I go to the pool every week. This is an error, actually, right? And instead of a comma there to join the two sentences, I'm going to write it down here in the search box so that you can follow it. I like swimming very much, comma, the comma splice. I go to the pool every week, right? Well, I wanted a semicolon there, or comma and, right? Otherwise, it is wrong, basically, right? Okay, the next point that Fowler brings up is that we use commas with subordinate clauses, actually, usually when they are moved to the front of the sentence, right? We tend to call this fronting, right? When we move an element of the sentence to the beginning, as is the case here, if you're ever in London, comma, come and see me. But not if that clause appears at the end. Subordinate clauses are also called dependent clauses, right? And there are many types of subordinate clauses. They can be nominal, adverbial, relative, and comparative, right? A nominal clause would be one that has that functions as a subject, right? So what you say doesn't matter to me. What you say doesn't matter to me, right? What you say would be a nominal clause, but in this case it is at the beginning, so and it is a subject, so we don't need the comma, right? As regards subordinate clauses, naturally you'll learn more about them in grammar, right? Okay. The next point says where commas are not used. I'm going to skip this little point number 3. Basically, what we want to say usually is that we do not use a comma either to join two sentences or to separate the subject from the verb, as in, that would be point number 7, right? An old relationship seemed lost is now restored. I don't remember where I got that example from, right? But something like this: an old relationship seemed lost, comma, is now. So what I'm trying to show is that this comma is wrong, right? We don't use this comma here, right? Is, oops, because the first part is the subject, so the subject and the predicate are not separated by comma, right? Okay, let's go to point number 4, which says unusual word order. To me, this question of unusual word order is rather unusual, right? It's all very technical, but basically, when you interpolate, so when there is an interpolation, as with these words, however, surprisingly, believe it or not, right, a sort of parenthetical intrusion, right, in the text, of course, you will set it off by commas. The phrasal verb is to set off. Yes, to set something off by using commas or with commas, right? Another place when you can use commas is with adjectives, right? Though this is not necessary, sometimes writers want to use a comma to make sure that each adjective is to be appreciated separately, right? Now, in the case of the example here, tall, dark, and handsome, well, it is odd for you to think that tall and dark could be confused as being one unit, right? So really, that's not a problem, right? But sometimes this may be the case. I don't know, think about a green, comma, red, and gold carpet. Maybe you could think without the comma that green, red is a kind of color combination, right? But well, this is mostly a decision that is merited by style, right? Or emphasis, maybe, right? Now, point number 6 says identifying expressions, commas not used. Well, and examples are: the driver in the Ferrari was cornering superbly. So the driver in the Ferrari, because the one who is in the Ferrari is identifying the driver, I do not use commas, right? As opposed to Stevens in the next example, in the Ferrari, was cornering superbly. I mean the phrase in the Ferrari as additional, right? As something that is not essential for us to identify the driver. And in this case, we have the typical problem telling the difference between his, well, sometimes you may write his wife, Susan, right? And this seems a bit odd because usually you have only one wife. So what you will do is to set it off by commas, right? His wife, Susan, was there, right? We assume there's only one wife, right? Now, if it were a son, his son, Peter, was there. In this case, okay, I assume there may be more than one son, right? So there's a son Peter and there's a son Bill. Sorry, in this case, there's only one, his son Peter. I am giving you extra information so that you know that it is Peter I'm talking about. But I may not, if I do not use a comma here, then his son Peter is the only one he has, right? In the other case, his son, oops, I made the same mistake. Sorry, his son Peter means there are other sons, right? His son John, his son, though this is very odd, right? Usually um, you would put it the other way around. You say Peter, his son, or one of his sons, right? So remember that when you set off an interpolation in commas, in this case, what you mean is that this is additional information, right? The examples here are also good. The woman who was talking on the phone gave Parker a big smile. So we're identifying the woman. It is this woman. It's the woman who was talking on the phone. Now, Mrs. Grange, the other sentence, comma, who was talking on the phone, comma, gave Parker a smile. The question that she was talking on the phone is simply additional, right? Not essential for us to identify Mrs. Grange, as you can see, without a full stop after Mrs., right? Well, I have commented already on point number 7. We use commas for enumerations, and maybe at this point we want to talk about the Oxford comma, right? This is something that drives some people crazy, right? They don't have a comment about this one. Let me see if I get Oxford. Maybe they do. Probably Lexico has an entry for the Oxford comma. Yes, they don't. That's unusual, right? Let me see more. Now, the Oxford comma is practically, it's a question that drives people crazy, right? Because people have decided, right, that it is something that you have to use or you do not have to use. And I don't want to get into the technicalities of certain examples that really show that you really need the Oxford comma. But what I want to say, this is a comma that we use before and or, and it is characteristic of Oxford University Press, though I should say that maybe from my experience, you don't see it that often in British English, but it is certain to appear in American English, right? So, well, the example, here's the example, right? When you say counties like Mayo, Sligo, and Galway, this comma here to introduce the last element tells you that this Sligo, I assume, but I don't know, is different from Galway. So it's not just a unit, right? It is also referred to, it's also called the serial comma, right? And a very popular phrase that I'm taking from Newhart's rule now is mad, bad, and dangerous to know. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. Mad, bad, and this is what Lord Byron's lover, Lady Caroline Lamb, said about Lord Byron. No, they do not comment on this. But most of the times you will find this expression without a comma before and. But well, those who favor the serial comma or the Oxford comma because it was introduced by Oxford University Press will want that comma there, right? And it usually helps show a difference in meaning, right? So, well, that's the idea of the serial comma. Don't worry about it. You may find lots of interesting examples online if you wish. I rarely use it, by the way, especially when it is an enumeration and it is clear, right? Unless confusion crops up, I don't think it is necessary. All right. The next comma is the one that we use for direct speech, right? And this is a very important comma, right? He said, comma, inverted commas, there's no way we can help her, close inverted commas, full stop. Now, after verbs like he wrote, she replied, she cried, she responded, you will use this comma here, right? And the same if the reference to who was speaking comes afterwards. The comma will come before the closing inverted commas, right? this is a very important comma, and I strongly recommend that you use it, right? When there is, of course, a direct speech, not when there is indirect speech, like the next point, right? As regards numbers, you know that for thousands, in English we use commas, right? You will also use a space, as in there are 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. That's frequent in many cases, and it's used a lot in international organizations, right? Okay, there's a comma I don't want to forget, and that's the one that we use in when we want to give dates, right? So this varies, right? Many people have different make different choices regarding how you set the date, right? But usually we will say on October 6th, comma, 1999, right? There will be a comma before the year. Okay, so let's move on to another mark, which is the dash. Now, the dash actually in English here, the ones that I'm using here in Fowler look very much like end dashes. There are 3 types of dashes. There's the end dash or end roll, right? I don't know if you're familiar with this one. This is a very, no, they don't have it. That's odd. So let's go to the dash. Maybe they have the entry for the end roll. Seems they don't. The dash is the equivalent in English for our rasha, right? And roll. Let me just check. Now, no, they don't. In English there are three types of marks. There's the hyphen, right, which is actually shorter than the end dash, the one I was trying to find here. Maybe they have it here. I never checked. End dash. Yeah, they do have it. Or end roll, right, which is the British choice. And okay, let's go little by little. The dash is the one that you know from Spanish, la rasha, right? The only difference is that in English it can be used for an interpolation in the middle of a text, right? As in the example that goes, my mother, dash, who rarely gets angry, dash, really lost her temper. Now, how you set the dash is something that varies depending on the publishing house, right? On many occasions in English, you will find no space left neither before nor after the dash, but this will change, right? I cannot promise that this will be always the case. Okay, now this is the same use we have in Spanish when the dashes are in the middle, right? And we use the dashes to make sure that the information that is set off by the dashes stands out. But English also likes to use the dash to add something at the end of the sentence. As in the first example, there are 3 things I can remember. I can never remember dash, names, faces, Oxford comma, and I've forgotten the other. Now, mainly this dash is for saliency. And please note that this final dash, which is a single one, does not exist in Spanish. Whenever you use it, you're copying English, right? You're doing something that is done normally in English. So you're not translating, you're copying, right? Okay, there are more examples on the other page, right? The next point is quotation marks that we use for direct speech, which can be single or double, right? They also call it inverted commas, and something is in inverted commas, not between. That's another thing we copy from Spanish into English, right? The other way around. Nosotros en castellano decimos entre comillas, entre paréntesis. In English, in inverted brackets, not between, in inverted brackets, in inverted commas, in brackets, right? Okay. Now, we use this for direct speech, right? When somebody's speaking. My view is that mostly in British styling, you will find single brackets, right? And maybe double brackets for this metalinguistic use of words, you know, this term metalinguistic, when you're talking about a word, metalinguistic. No, I said metalinguistic. Thank you. That is to say, when you use language to talk about language. So the word, as it says here, disinterested, is one that causes a lot of confusion in English, right? Now, we also used inverted commas to show the meaning, right? So, I don't know, metalinguistic. No, I'm not going to use metalinguistic. So, no. Exhausted means very tired, right? So we enclose the meaning of a word in inverted commas. That's a convention, right? We also use inverted commas to set off, for example, the names of a song from a record, or an article from the newspaper, or a chapter from a book. This is a convention that we use to single out that this is a smaller part from a larger unit, right? And those larger units will be styled in italics. You know, the name of a book is styled in italics. The same goes for the name of a record, or the name of a newspaper, right? Okay. Also, we use these inverted commas when we want to create distance, right? And say, she said she was very tired, like this, right? In inverted commas. And we were to say, well, I don't believe her. That's what she said. I don't think that is true, right? Okay, let's move on to the apostrophe, which is a very complicated punctuation mark. One is for letters that are missing, and you know this one is very obvious, right? The one that is not so obvious is the one for possessives, mostly because sometimes we forget that choices, right, takes the apostrophe S, the same as Bridget Jones's Diary. Comida Jones, well, it wasn't like this. Jones's Diary, right? It was another name, right? It wasn't Jones's. What was her name? I forget. Well, but what I'm trying to say is that for names that end with an S, we will use the. I'm trying to remember. Jones's, was it like this? No, it wasn't like this. Okay, it doesn't matter. Now, where was I? I got distracted. Sorry, I wanted to say that for names that are of Latin origin or Greek origin, right? We call these classical names. There won't be an apostrophe, right? So you will say Euripides, I don't know, tragedies, Herodotus, I don't know, he spoke about history, writings, or whatever, right? I found it. It was Bridget Jones. Like this. And it should have been Bridget Jones's Diary, right? Okay, so Dickens also takes the apostrophe S, right? So you speak of Dickens. Thank you, Dickens's characters, right? Now, well, that's a very important rule, I think, right? Now, in this respect, with this, this is a possessive, right? Which is a genitival construction, right? The word is genitival. Clearly, I touched something, and I know, here. Genitival clauses. Now, we should go on, right? Because actually there are many other combinations here that are of importance. Now, when the noun is in the plural, Jenny Taival, yes. When the noun is in the plural, like children, right? You speak of children's hour. Oh, there it is. Children's hour or children's literature, right? The apostrophe comes after children, apostrophe s after children. And then if it is for women, which is another irregular plural, women's liberation, right? Or women's lib, or a woman. Now, what happens? Oh, I have other examples. Remember this All Saints Day. The apostrophe comes after the S because it's saint is in the plural. But what about President's Day? President. Is it like this? Yes. Why? Because it is two presidents, actually, right? It's Lincoln and Washington, if I'm not mistaken, am I? Yeah, Washington and Lincoln. But what about April Fool's Day? It's only one fall, right? So April Fool's Day. No es el día de los tontos como en castellano, right? Es el día del tonto en inglés. And also Valentine's Day, right? So it was only one Valentine, actually, right? Apostrophe S. Another set that tends to create problems is when we create expressions with the words time and leave and delay, which show a period of time. So you speak of doing something in 2 weeks time, right? In 2 weeks time, dentro de 2 semanas. But if it's only 1 week, what will happen? Think about it while I'm writing it out. 1, right? In 1 week's time, it will be, the apostrophe S will be after, and it will be an S because it's only 1 week, right? And you ask for, I don't know, 2 months leave, licencia, right? Because it is in the plural, 2 months, right? There's only apostrophe, right? And you speak also of an hour's delay, right? And all these nouns, delay, time, leave, refer to a period of time, right? Another problematic one is sake, right? Maybe we'll find some examples, but for all time's sake, right? Well, I have here all the examples. For Christ's sake, apostrophe is for God's sake, for goodness sake, for heaven's sake, in the singular heavens, for pity's sake, right? All of them, and for all time's sake, now the apostrophe after the word, right? For something's sake, right? So notice the difference, right? Goodness, times, and apostrophe s, apostrophe s, apostrophe s, apostrophe s. Okay, that's how you styled. You also have for Pete's sake. We don't have Pete, right? Okay, the apostrophe is usually very problematic, right? People say also that Jesus's is, if you say Jesus is like this, sorry, Jesus, I don't know, words. Some people think this is an archaism, right? But some other people think this is acceptable, right? So you need to check what people do, whatever it is that you're working, right? Because this actually varies, right? Okay, another typical problem with the with the apostrophe is when you say something like it happened in the 60s, right? And this is a terrible mistake, right? Because this is not genitive, this is a plural. So it's the 60s, right? This is the same as saying the 60s, right? There's no of phrase there, right? Pete's sake was here, I didn't see it. For Pete's sake, one Pete, for old time's sake, por los viejos tiempos. Así lo dicen en inglés, right? Okay, let's move on then to Well, we're not going to consider the question mark, but we're going to consider something that was not mentioned here and that I think is interesting. One is the slash. You know, there's a forward slash and a backward slash, right? Forward slash and backward slash. But what I think is interesting about this one, it's not here, apparently. No, it's not here. Just give me a second. Did you know that this word has many other names? For example, stroke. You can call the slash a stroke. This is the verb. No, this is a noun. Well, today this dictionary refuses to help me. It can also be called solidus. Isn't that odd? Well. This is making me mad. Oblique. As an adjective, but as a noun, if I find this, I will be happy. It's this symbol, right, that we use the same symbol, right? We also call it slash. Well, we also call it oblique. We also call it solidus, right? And we also call it virgule. Solidus was not here, sorry, right? I thought it would be here. So virgule is not here either. I'm pretty sure it used to be here. Well, anyway, how do we use the solidus, right? How do we use this slash or stroke or whatever you want to call it? The most popular name is slash, right? We use it to mean something like or when we say Jekyll. Oh, I forget where I have this here. No, I think it is here. No, where's my slash? Well, imagine there's a slash here, right? Jekyll slash Hyde personality, right? So in that case, it means or. We also use it for a URL, right? Which is the computer directory path, URL. Oops. And we also use it to mean per as URL, right? Also, when you mean per as in feet, I think it was here, let's see. Yes, there it is. Feet second. And you mean per second, right? A number of feet per second. That's what the slash means, right? Okay, let's go to the hyphen. Right? I was telling you that in English we actually have 3 types of, actually you can call them dashes, right? That would be the superordinate term, right? Now the hyphen is one that we use for to join words, right? Particularly when these are this is part of the word, right? Not when there is a semantic relationship between the two meanings, because in that case we will use the n dash or the n rule, right? Now, when do we use the hyphen? Let's stay here. We use the hyphen maybe to show a difference in meaning. So remark means to say, but remark means to mark again, right? This is not absolutely terribly frequent, but it does exist, right? So as I said, we use it to join words when you say stainless steel, right? Maybe, I hope this is styled like this in this dictionary today. Yes, today it has proved to be quite helpful. This dictionary styles stainless steel as 2 different words, right? Well, but if you use it as an adjective, you will say stainless steel, I don't know, something, right? No. So maybe you might find it like this, stainless steel, I don't know. Wait, is that possible? Okay. When else do we use hyphens in numbers, please? From 21 to 99, right? We also use it to separate the letters of a name, maybe for clarification. VALERIA, right? When this is the way of styling, a way of speaking when I am telling you the letters, spelling a number, sorry, a name, or any other word for that matter. We also use it to show stammering or hesitation, right? And we also use it for what we call letter collision. Letter collision. Notice the pronunciation here, collision, right? So letter collision would be something like wall less, right? I mean, too many letters, too many L's, right? Shall like, right? You would be using it like that. Okay, and that's it for the hyphen. I never got to tell you what we do with the en dash. So let's go here to the en dash. The en dash is the one that is used to show a range, right? So from 1931 to 1945. Let's see if I can. Well, here, to be frank, it looks like a hyphen, right? The size of a hyphen. The hyphen is the one that has the same length as our hyphen, the nuestro guión, but the en dash in English is slightly longer than the hyphen and slightly shorter than the dash, right? And we use it, well, not just for dates, right? Also for relationships with words, right? It's more difficult to spot. I'm trying to find the for example, let's see, Dover, Calais crossing, right? Oh, here they have it. Maybe I gave them too much. And they wanted just Dover, Calais. No, it's all here. Well, but it wouldn't look like this, right? This looks like a hyphen. It's very, very short. Actually, the en dash is slightly longer, right? We also use it. I'm using now, again, Newhart's rules, right? So when you say from a page number to another page number, right? And that would be an en dash. Please go to the lesson outline that I have made for you, and if there is, maybe I have used it there, right? And you will see that it's not a hyphen; it's a bit longer than a hyphen, right? So we use it for also for Monday to Saturday. Let's use capitals for once. Okay, once again, this looks like a hyphen, but it should be slightly longer to make the dash. And this means, in all of these cases, it means from to, right? In the case of the Dover-Calais crossing, this means from one place to the other, right? And there are other cases for the en rule, but I don't want to discuss it because it is too much information, right? Okay, what are we missing? Brackets, right? Bracket is the superordinate term for a number of parenthetical devices in English, which are the round brackets or parentheses in American English. But please pay attention to this. I think I haven't done this yet. The parenthesis is the singular word, right? Parentheses is the plural, right? Because these are words of Greek origin. And notice that we say that something is in parentheses, not between. British English refers to them as brackets or round brackets, right? You can see them here. Now, let's see if we look up bracket. And maybe we'll get all of them. You know that there's also angle brackets. Merriam-Webster, by the way, uses angle brackets for to provide examples, right? So you also have here the angle brackets, right? And the braces. sometimes referred to as curly braces, right? Did we go to the noun? No, sorry. So what are the brackets? The brackets are the round brackets, the square brackets, right? I should have gone here. Sorry, my bad. Square brackets, curly brackets, right? Or braces. Are they here? Well, you can see here the square bracket, right? And the braces, here they are. Well, they're also suspenders. Jesus. Well, they're not here. Let me just check one thing. No, they're not here. All right, the only thing that I think is interesting about this is that we usually enclose in square brackets this word, which is an abbreviation, right? From sicket. So, thus, right? And this is how we style it, right? This is the typical styling for that word. Okay, we're missing ellipses, right? Ellipses. Our friend Lynn Trust says that ellipsis is to trail off enigmatically, right? You end a sentence like this, never end a sentence like this when writing for language, right? But this is basically to show that something is missing, and this is deliberate, right? Now, please, once again, the ending SIS, this is a word of Greek origin, ellipsis, singular, plural, ellipses, right? Okay, I think we're absolutely done, right? We have seen ellipses. I have told you in passing about italics. But by the way, italics, Americans sometimes say italics, right? And italics, actually, this is what I wanted to show you, are the opposite of Roman type, right? We use Roman type normally. Come on, compare it. So actually, they haven't taken us to Roman writing, right? Which is what they should have done. But Roman is, let's see, here, sorry, let's see. See, maybe they have it here. Es lo que nosotros llamamos en español la letra romana, right? Es un tipo de letra, que es la letra derecha, no la que está inclinada como la itálica, right? Now, when do we use italics? I think I told you we use italics sometimes for emphasis, right? Mainly for names of books, names of newspapers, names of films. Emphasis is a new thing, and also for foreign words, right? So sometimes words of Latin origin appear in italics, and sometimes they don't. The same happens in our dictionary, right? So let's see. I think they don't have this word here. No, siku. No, but that's another word, right? Let's try this one. Oh, okay, very good. We used to have to use stress here, but our dictionary is telling us we will use this word as a foreign word, and it will always appear in italics, right? Now, in English, please note that there are many words that are either from French or I don't know, many other languages which have been incorporated into the language, and they don't take italics anymore, right? Okay, and I think that is about it, right? So I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.